We're going to call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I call for a agenda motion, quick nod of heads on timeline. I think we had some positive feedback on time boxing, our sort of workshopy discussion. So it's 6 o'clock now. We've got probably a little over an hour of agenda, maybe less. When do you guys want to get out of here? We can make it 8. We could make it 7:30. Both are probably reasonable, depending on how deep we want to go into mission.
Shoot for 7:30, and if it goes to 8.
That sounds good. Yeah.
I think we're definitely going to do goals. Yeah. But just with the understanding of I think we'll be close to a result tonight, but I think it's unrealistic that we'll have everything like ready to pass in a motion. So we'll probably have to, if not discuss it one more time, at least circulate a document by email,
Are you suggesting?
Go ahead.
Are you suggesting to keep it open until we're able to do that, or I think Matt's just asking about a timeline in terms of like what do we want to commit to? Yep.
I agree.
No, I think he's just. I mean, you can speak.
No. I agree. I just, the thing is, if we don't stick a time bound on it, we'll go on till we're all,
I suggest you put an 8 o'clock
Okay, so we'll call it 8. And if we feel like we're at sort of a stopping point for the evening before then, we'll call it earlier than that. But 8 at the latest. All right. So with that, can I have a motion to approve the present agenda as written?
Motion.
Any questions on tonight's agenda? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So we are in public comment. This is the first of 2 public comment periods. This first public comment period is for stakeholders of the Chatham Central School District to speak about items on tonight's agenda. We will have a second public comment period that's for any issues pertaining to the district. If anyone would like to raise a digital hand or come sign in here, I can have a couple minutes to speak. How many do we have online?
7.
Okay.
Perhaps a couple government students, a couple administrators.
All right. So I'll just wait a second in case someone raises a hand, but otherwise we'll move on. There's a digital raise hand button at the bottom of your screen. Okay. With that, we are in board comment. We had some great middle school concerts since I was last here. Does anyone else have any comments?
elementary school show.
It's on.
Can you hear? Okay. I really would like to give a shout out to the boys and the girls varsity softball, baseball teams. They're carrying on, considering what we went through with the pandemic. These kids have just really survived it. Their determination, their hard work, the resilience to do so much, starting with last season and then the fall sports and now and the basketball and now baseball and softball. I really think we have to give a shout out to them. They're doing a fantastic job. And talk about spirit.
I'll second that. I'm super proud of the kids for their athletics, but I'm going to add to that. There's more than that, just that going on. These kids have shown resilience. Gracie is an example of how much this institution and this community means to them. Whereas many schools are are struggling to get kids back involved. Our kids seem to be struggling to get us to demand what they can be involved in. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
Any other board comment?
The elementary school show was last week. Not a seat available, and they had it at the middle school, not a seat available. It was packed. It was very, very well attended. The kids had a great time. I think they had 50 kids up on stage. So it was very good.
That's great. All right. With that, we are into the student representative report.
All right, so I am starting off with sports. Baseball, the softball playing tonight, they have sectional semifinals. I believe that's sports. Things are pretty we're winning. Baseball played yesterday on their game, and they played again after one of sectionals on Thursday. Track is out of the state, so water, their sectional, and we have some kind of conferences with in fall. Arbor Day is going to be this Friday. As we know, that's kind of I know we have a lot of different things planned, activities planned for Chatham High School and the support funded that pilot. Your expo night is June 7th. That will be held in the gym. And that's just how the walls that I put here display there, and that's kind of the art and literacy club here at that on Thursday. And they are hosting a celebratory gala in the library. That will be held at 6 to 7 p.m. It has a collection of Chatham artwork, drawings. I believe there are department and as well. So there's a really cool collection of art and work that Chatham is in. So I'm going to check that out.
Okay. With that, we are into anyone have any questions? Okay. With that, we're in the superintendent's report.
Good evening. So I think I was also going to cover, but I think we've covered the athletic program pretty well. Looking forward to the games that we have ahead. One of the things I wanted to share in terms of just a brief update, I'm going to share my screen real quick, is that you've heard me report on a couple other occasions about our implementation and institution of something called an anonymous reporting solution. And I just wanted to kind of just give you a kind of a brief update because we're going to be launching that in a soft launch in the coming days and weeks. And I know Taconic has done as part of the one of the school districts who's also, bear with me, I'm trying to get this to cooperate. So just as in terms of a slight recap, we were part of one of the school districts who signed on with on a Questar grant. Questar has 22 schools, and we were one of 16 who decided to move forward with this anonymous reporting app. The anonymous reporting app is an app for which can run either on a mobile phone, can be accessed through a website, or there's actually a 1-800 number. And our initial implementation, I just want one other thing I want to key in on if I can get to it, but our initial implementation will have somewhat limited incident types so that we can get our feet firmly planted on the ground. But we're targeting self-harm, violence, threats and planned attacks, suicide ideation, vandalism, and weapons. So it's really around security and self-harm to begin with. So the way it typically works is if a person puts in an anonymous call, there is a kind of a token on the back end that keeps track of the message, so that there still can be an interaction between the responder and the person making the anonymous report, keeping it to be truly the anonymity being maintained as long as the user desires that to be the case. One of the things, it took a while to get us this underway because we were looking to put an MOA or MOU in effect with the sheriff's office, because one of the things that the superintendent's group was concerned about is that, our administrators are already overwhelmed with the management of the school building, and the thought that any of these systems that manage and monitor social media sites and all sorts of things that happen 24/7, it's not practical that our team could manage that. So one of the attractive features of this program is that there is a 24/7, 365-day in-house incident response center. So they are the ones that are tasked with monitoring the incidents when they come in, to triage them and determine if imminent harm is potential, and then accordingly can engage with the local 911s of the different school districts, so that emergency personnel could be dispatched should that be appropriate. Now, if it is not a imminent harm, it's just a report of maybe some graffiti or some vandalism, then that is not escalated to that extent, and that goes into this reporting system, for which our school administrators can retrieve the next day and operate on. One of the advantages of the system is that this will create a database for which we can manage instances and have the ability to analyze some data moving forward on the frequency, the type, and the response that has been given. So that we're really excited about that. Again, a soft launch, so that we need to get to the point where we encourage students. There's a student video, there's a parent video. The administrators have gone through the training in terms of the preliminary use of the product. Some more training is going to be necessary once we get fully up and operational with the database. This is the first round. The second round will be folding in our PPS team. They have to have an opportunity to kind of engage in this, and we hope to have this really fully operational for September. We're hopeful that this is part of a more comprehensive approach to security and safety. We know that we've done many measures across the district in terms of analyzing and assessing our security posture. But one thing that we are hopeful is that an anonymous system will bring forth some intel and information in the way of preventing things from happening. As as often is the case when you hear national reports of different instances, often someone knew something but didn't know either how to come forward or was concerned about coming forward. And our hope is that this anonymous reporting app will help eliminate the apprehension in terms of a student seeing something and saying something and reporting it in a way that we can operate on the information, and perhaps either assist the student who is having difficulties himself or herself, or knows of some threat or harm that may come to someone within the district. So we're kind of excited. I just wanted to kind of make sure that you were updated on that, and I'm certainly would answer any questions. I know, Fred, David, you've had a soft launch a few weeks ago. I don't know if you've heard anything yet, any feedback. We certainly will have the ability to expand the system. There's a lot of custom features down the road. We can add incident types as we move forward and gain some experience with it. But we wanted to start out with something that was manageable.
But before the board speaks, just as a reminder, since this is a safety issue, feel free to ask a question. If it's not based on what might be, executive, private, confidential security knowledge. And we will not answer questions that have safety details that could be harmful. Go ahead. Okay.
I think I have two. One, the first that came to mind as you started to roll out the information. So is this intended specifically for on-campus incidences?
That's an interesting question. So what would be an example of are you saying like a What would be,
Well, you mentioned suicide.
well, no, if a student themselves is having a suicidal ideation, wherever that takes place, we would want to know about it.
Can I, this system's tied in with emergency services, right?
Right.
So, and the school's also tied in. So
Right, so
there's-
maybe it'd be helpful to go through a scenario. It's 11 o'clock at night. Students aware of the system. They are having, suicidal thoughts. They would like to reach out to this system. They either can call the 1-800 number, they can enter an incident in the app or on the website. That's immediately triaged by this call center. And if it's determined that there's imminent harm, this call center will call Columbia County 911 dispatch immediately so that they can operate on that information. I will then, I'm the primary contact, Lisa's the secondary contact. Law enforcement will then notify us, and then we can, stay in contact with law enforcement and then deal with it the next morning.
And conversely to that, if someone might know of a friend or someone that is having these feelings, that person could also reach out.
Absolutely. That's kind of an imperative part of the system.
Second question is, you mentioned Taconic Hills. I don't know if it's a more of a region-wide initiative, but will ultimately this be able to reach out and receive information from adjacent districts or talk to seamlessly adjacent districts, or I don't know how that.
Yeah, so
work.
each app is targeted towards a single district.
Okay.
That's not to say that at the management level, Questar, who is the one that has the grant, might be able to aggregate anonymous data to look for some trends, if that's what you're referring to. But right now, each instance of this application is customized to our individual district. Yeah.
and it's one way. There's not like area alerts, like Amber alerts being fed in. That's what you were
I
thinking.
see what you mean. Yeah.
So personal identifiable information is limited to just you and Lisa. So I mean, because we have to be careful with how much information
Yeah.
goes out with, how do they manage that? And how do you guys find out who it actually is related to?
So if it is truly an anonymous system, so if the reporter does not want to share any pertinent information, then there's a limit,
Right.
they have to share some if they're going to try to prevent something. But
Yep.
so I put an incident in. That incident on the back end is coded, and then that information is forwarded to us as an anonymous report. The person who's reporting can attach a photo, like if they have a photo of a vandalism, or if there's a photo of something that they think supports their report. They can attach different files to it. If we would then like to communicate with that individual, we're just communicating with through a two-way anonymous messenger. So we can send something back. Thank you very much. Are you able to provide some additional information? But at no time, unless the reporter discloses who they are, we would not have any knowledge of that. This goes into a database, just like any of our other secure data information, and only Lisa, myself, and the appropriate administrators will have access to that information. So in it would be incident type, what type of actions were taken, that kind of thing.
Okay, got to look at negatives. What if there is a false report? How do they manage that in the system?
Well, that's always a little bit of a concern with anonymous reporting, and we were very careful not to jump on this too prematurely. We wanted to see historical information from districts across the country and other districts in the state who had implemented this ahead of us. And this may not provide a tremendous amount of comfort, but there is a disclaimer that the person who is reporting the information does see before they hit send, that providing any fraudulent information could be a problem from a legal perspective. But that is certainly of a concern, right?
But that's a start. I mean, it's a start.
Right, I
It's a
think
Unique idea. It's very
and anonymous reporting is not new. The 1-800 numbers have been used by schools forever, but they typically were kind of a tip line. This is kind of taking it to a new level and kind of addresses how students live and work, in terms of using a mobile app.
I have one more question,
Yeah.
sorry, really quick. So let's say it's rolled out, and next year,
Yes.
um, if there were to be some sort of incident at the school, within the district during school hours, would anyone that chose to download the app on their phone, would they be notified of an incident? It doesn't work like that?
So this is not, there are features in the app in terms of broadcast and other communication tools. So I don't know if I totally understand your question. A student may have this app where they may go, the app could exist on their Chromebook, or they could go to the website.
Yeah.
They put in an incident. That incident is not shared with anyone
Oh,
else
okay.
except the team. Now, if the team feels that they want to use one of the tools in the app to send a push notification to all students who have the app, that is a tool that is embedded in that
Okay.
product. The sister product to this, and something that really caught my eye initially before we decided to join the other districts in the anonymous reporting aspect of this. And initially I was more interested in the other product, which is the silent 911 panic system that's built into the app, or built into another version of their app. That's where if you recall, there's something called Alyssa's Law. Alyssa's Law requires school districts to consider silent 911 panic. It doesn't mandate its use yet, but this product will suffice in terms of that mandate, should that become a reality. And I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but that was part of our thought in terms of our total security profile. If a student sees something of grave danger, and or importantly, a staff person, they can hit this silent panic alarm, which also goes through this response center. That system has a lot of interesting features to it in terms of being able to quickly do attendance of who is okay and who's not. It can what's the other emergency communication between staff. So if we're trying to communicate during an emergency, you can set up different incident groups, and it's really kind of taking our security to a new level. So I just wanted to kind of give you an update on that before we kind of rolled it out over the next couple of weeks, so that we can give it a try and kind of gain experience with it. I don't, we certainly, until we use it and figure out where some of the logistical hurdles are, some of the challenges are, we won't know exactly what it can do for us. But the one thing that we did not have in place is a really good system to garner information that may be out there that could help us, proactively prevent something from happening.
The only thought I would have on this is that I think it's an app node, a device, a mechanism to love our kids, to care for them. But as we use it, I think that it's important that those who are governing over it, and I have confidence here, understand that maybe it's not about the love, but maybe it's about the understanding. Not all reports are reports of this is what I'm going to do, but rather this is what I may need. And so I think that there's some finesse and some execution that has to happen from those who are leading the charge to ensure that we're responding and not reacting.
And that's why I think it's imperative that that we engage at the second level with our PPS staff, who are going to be much more better prepared to handle some of these situations. And again, be able to track some of the instances and the responses, so that we can take a look at some data going forward, and perhaps that might lead to some resource allocation or some conversations around capacity. So stay tuned. We will certainly keep the board apprised of how we make out with that. I think that's about it for now. Don't have anything else to report for this evening.
Any questions? All right. Pat, did policy meet?
Yes, we did meet. We pretty much worked through now the 5,000 series of policies. We still have a few loose ends, so we're trying to tidy them up. I haven't had a chance myself to incorporate all the changes that we had agreed upon, so you're not gonna see them out there for a bit, on the shared drive. And we're meeting again next Wednesday. So hopefully we're gonna get through, finishing up the 5,000, few loose ends on those, and then hit the 6,000 hopefully. And best we can anyway.
Thanks. Okay. Chris, Muriel wants to tell us about facilities.
Would you like to
Go ahead,
report?
I'll jump in if you
Okay.
forget anything.
Sure. So we had a very productive facilities meeting just I believe 2 days ago. We had the first opportunity to meet with our construction manager, Colliers, who is the construction manager from the previous project. So we were very excited to engage them and bring them into the fold. So the architect SEI was there, and the majority of the discussion was about the upcoming project, the planning, phasing, scheduling. What are we going to be looking at? What's going to get done first? What are we looking at next summer? How are the drawings going to be going into the state education department for review? So all of that was discussed, and it looks like everyone on the team at the moment feels very positive that things are going to move swiftly. I believe there's already been some programming meetings set up for next week,
This week and next.
to this week and next. So things are rolling, and they're going to start moving very quickly. So it's very exciting, and we'll be happy to update as things move forward.
I just wanted to interject for a second. Chris is being very modest. I think the board needs to know that when we set out to embark on this capital project, we had fully anticipated using something called the expedited review plan. That's a third-party review. That's what we used last time. Helps us stay on track. And just as we passed the referendum, we were notified by the state education department that they were doing away with that third-party review. And it was relatively short notice, and so we got off guard, and we started to create a plan B, which was to perhaps have to prepare for a much longer than previously understood approval period. And in doing that, we felt it was a little unfair. So through Chris and Matt's leadership, we sent the state education department a letter expressing our concern that something that we had expected to use would not be available to us. And it kind of, in a way, tripped us up. And to our great surprise, and very atypical of a bureaucratic institution like the state education department, they were sympathetic to that and wrote us back and said that they were going to create a kind of an expedited review specifically for us, and maybe perhaps others that are in that circumstance. I don't know that, where they are going to make sure that if we meet certain criteria in terms of submitting our drawings for approval in a time frame that would be consistent with a third-party review, they would commit to returning them to us by January or February of next year, which is tremendous. It will in some ways put us right back to where we wanted to be from the beginning. So it's not something I've seen in my career and would have expected from that department. Greatly appreciate their new customer service philosophy at State Ed, and I don't think it couldn't go without being acknowledged. And so thank you, gentlemen.
is a pleasant surprise for us, which means if this all goes well, we'll be actually awarding bids March of 2024. That's a lot sooner than any of us expected, so we were all real happy with that this happened.
And I maybe I missed it. Did we get feedback that that timeline was gonna work for
Yeah.
them? Okay,
They were all, the construction company and the architects were gung ho to go. The architects have already started their drawings.
great.
Could you tell me what programming?
You mean within the district?
You said that you're starting.
Yes,
programming.
I didn't know if you'd understand. So basically, if you recall, when we developed the project scope, we worked with our instructional folks to get feedback in terms of art, music, science, library. And that was a preliminary kind of design. Now that the project's approved, what Chris means is we've set up meetings, the architect has set up meetings with those groups again so that they can do a little deeper dive in terms of the information that they need to appropriately do the detailed drawings and get and create the specifications. And Chris is the architect, and get to the point where we have documents that can be submitted for stage education approval and then ultimately put into bid packages for the contractor. So that's what's referred to.
Yeah, basically it's an information gathering process.
And,
that-
you know, and a shout out to our teachers and staff who have embraced this process from the beginning. And I'm happy to report that although we started out with a contact in each of those departments, what I've come to learn this week as we've scheduled these meetings is that many of the other teachers within those departments want to be a part of that process. So although we may have reached out to like Sandy Fisher as the science teacher leader, and Patty Sangala, who helped her, now all 4 science teachers are going to be engaged in that process. And so I'm really encouraged by that. And I think with that, we will get more information, and the design that the architects put together will be informed by their feedback, and I think we'll get a better product in the end. So I'm appreciative of their time and effort too.
Anything else on facilities? Any questions for these guys? We got a 18-month timeline, ahead of us for the.
Maybe we should just touch on, there was discussion of the school sign. And I don't believe we have a definitive date as to,
I wish Mr. Choi was here with the actual
Yeah.
dates, but so just in the way of a quick update. So as you know, as part of the capital outlay project that was approved for this budget year, we went ahead and designed and are working with Saxton Sign out of Nassau to design a digital sign for us as the spring approached, and they went to secure the appropriate permits. We were informed that we actually needed zoning approval as well. Just in way of information, school districts do not obtain building permits from local agencies. Building permits come from the state education department. However, you still need zoning approval. So that came in a little bit later than we expected in terms of understanding that. Mr. Chuddy worked with our architect and the sign company. They attended a zoning commission meeting last week. There'll be a public hearing sometime in June regarding the sign, and then we have to do some required notifications of local residents about the sign. And there was some healthy discussion at the meeting, and I think they appreciated that we are going through the established process, and we're very amenable to working with us in achieving the mutual goal of meeting zoning requirements, but at the same time, making sure that they were satisfied with how we would position it, some of the parameters around when it will be used and when it would be in sleep mode, those kind of things. So I think we're in a good place, and we'll certainly give you an update once the public hearing has taken place and we have zoning approval. Is that good? Okay. Yes.
yes, zoning. So far, so good.
The current sign's lit, right? It's not lit right now? Doesn't have a light, it doesn't have a bulb in it at all?
It might,
I've never seen. I saw Andy out there in his hands and he's today.
I did too.
well, it's interesting because there is power out there.
I think he was.
Maybe the bulb's been out for so
Could
long,
be.
no one remembers.
Could be, because it does look like that translucent material
Right.
where there should, maybe it's like an old fluorescent. lamp in
Well,
there.
I was curious when the timer was set.
Yeah.
But maybe it's not been running for so long that.
Never seen it, but.
Yeah, I saw NYSEG out there this morning and Andy, because we have to, we're gonna have to relocate where the power is, and we also have to update the power in anticipation of the sign. This,
Do you need zoning for both village? 'Cause isn't it-
There's a sign law. There's a sign law in the village.
Right, because the light, I'm sure, but is there, like, isn't it Village of Chatham and Town of Ghent? Do you need both?
No.
No,
I think,
right, oh,
oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just the village, and the village has sort of an onerous sign law, which is aimed at Main Street, really. But
well, people are sleeping, they want it dark when they're sleeping.
yeah. But we
Yeah.
have some other electronic signs in town near houses, so. All right, we'll leave that to zoning. All right, so we're into new business discussion. We had an election. Both propositions passed, our 2023-24 budget, and our student representative renewal. And we have three board members that were elected out of three petitioned. Mary Ann Pirro, Don Friedman, and myself. So we were all elected. So R57, be it resolved, the Board of Education accept the results of the 23-24 annual budget vote and election held on May 16th. Can I have a motion?
Motion?
Any questions? All in favor?
Oh, before, I'm sorry, I don't want to speak for the board, I want to speak for the superintendent, but I just want to deeply thank the community for their overwhelming support. I never, as a superintendent, want to at all ever take for granted this community's love for the school district and their overwhelming support for our budget and for our propositions. I hope we never fail to appreciate how important that is, and it's overwhelming. So in a year where there wasn't a lot going on, and we didn't have a high turnout, we still had 73% of our residents support our efforts here. So we greatly appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's worth pointing out for anyone that looks at these numbers every year. This is a better than average result. So I think that's I see that as a mandate that we're sized appropriately. We have not always had budgets that pass this cleanly. So
I'm just curious about the 57 that didn't think that the student representative, that voted against the student representative. That really is it a communication thing they don't understand, or what? I would love to know why.
I suspect there's not enough information on the prop for people to understand that this has been around for 10 years and what it is and what, and some people are automatic no on everything, but I don't know that there's 57 of them.
Right. Yeah, it's just the knowledge.
It's a good question, though, it's a good question.
Now, when you said this is better than average turnout, you're talking about percentage wise or?
I always look at
Okay.
I always look at every time we do a vote, the yeses and nos, the proportion.
Okay.
And so we're at nearly a 3-to-1, which is better than average.
Okay.
It's often closer to 2-to-1. It's sort of a normalish ratio, and sometimes we barely pass. And of course, we've had years where we didn't pass. So.
You were just a baby.
Well, I went into the archives to go see what's been happening in the last 30 years. And so although the archives aren't that easy to find, I will say, when you want to go back more than 20 years, it seems like it's missing, but so I see that as a mandate, but clearly there's 116 people that for whatever there's a lot of reasons to be against these tax increases. We had a reassessment. It's a tough economic year. We've got a shrinking enrollment, and we're aware of that. And that's why we didn't go to the cap. So with that, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have an MOA with the CCSTA R58. Be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the MOA dated May 23rd, 2023. Can I have a motion? Any questions on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And R59, be it resolved that the Board of Education approve the Chatham Public Library recommendation report regarding a materials challenge. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Did we get a second? Okay. We did discuss this in a previous meeting, but does anyone have questions here?
I have something to say. I am very proud. I am very proud. If you all read your executive content, I am very proud of the way this was handled. And that's all I have to say. It was handled very well.
Yeah, and it was handled well, and it was a clear case, and I'm sort of glad we had this challenge
Yeah.
because we could be looking at some other types of challenges, so that are less easy.
This was a good dress rehearsal.
All right, all in favor? Any opposed? And we are into consensus agenda, I through K. R60, be it resolved that the Board of Education accept consensus agenda I through K as written. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Any questions here? I see we have a new dispatcher, so our buses are not going to get lost. And of course, we have another generous donation via the Friends of the Chatham Public Library. Yep. For a ukulele jam. That's fun.
It's a big thing.
Yeah. All right. All in favor? Any opposed? Items for future agenda. Of course, we're going to be going into our goals in a few minutes. Does anyone have anything else they want to table that's not already on the agenda? Okay. We are in second public comment. This public comment period is open to stakeholders of the Chatham Central School District to speak about any issue affecting the district. If you'd like to speak, you can come sign in at the table, or you can raise your digital hand online, and we'll give you 3 minutes to speak. I'll just wait a moment in case we get some digital hands. We still have 7 online?
We have 6,
Okay. Any digital hands?
not at this time.
All right. With that, be it resolved that the Board of Education enter executive session to discuss collective negotiations, employment of a particular person, and or proposed pending or current litigation. Can I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And we do not,
No, not you.
I just wondered whether there was a discussion of that.
we had a meeting, and normally I don't respond, but since you're asking a pretty direct question, we had a discussion last meeting that's in a recording. We discussed it in the past, but we did have a discussion. It was in public session, right? That discussion? Yeah. So we spent 5 or 10 minutes on the subject, and tonight's sort of a rubber stamp exercise because we already discussed it. But if you'd like to speak a comment, we can rewind a little bit. It comes up, frequently and we're, we had a discussion last meeting. There was no particular resolution other than a discussion about a particular, issue. Like there was a specific piece of content, I'm not sure censorship would be the right label, but, I think, if you want to write down a question and mail it in, we're happy to respond more specifically.
Oh, all I was going to say is maybe this would be helpful. There have been no publications that have come to the board's attention in terms of requests for censorship at this point.
Okay. So with that, we're in executive. Oh, did we do all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, and we do not anticipate returning to open session, but there will be a workshop following the meeting, and if anyone wants to listen in on us talking about goals, do we have an anticipated duration for our executive session? We can go in the side room here if anyone wants to wait.
I think we need to appoint Sal. Right, you still have to do that, but I would say 15 minutes, 20 for executive session.
15 to 20 minutes, and if anyone wants to observe us talking, yeah, we'll go into that motion. If anyone wants to observe us talking about goals, that will be happening in a little while.
7:10.
And so should we move into the back? What do you think, guys? Before we start? Okay. Motion to appoint Salvador D'Angelo as District Clerk Pro Tem for the executive session. Can I have a motion?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay.